So welcome everyone. Before we begin the reading for today, let's listen to Shraddhavan's reading of Savitri, the part that we are going to do today.
An organ scale of the Eternal's acts, mounting to their climax in an endless calm, basis of the many-visaged wonderful, predestined stadia of the evolving way, measures of the stature of the growing soul. They interpreted existence to itself, and mediating twixt the heights and deeps, united the veiled married opposites, and linked creation to the ineffable. A last high world was seen, where all worlds meet. In its summit gleam, where night is not nor sleep, the light began of the Trinity supreme. All there discovered what it seeks for here. It freed the finite into boundlessness, and rose into its own eternities. The inconscient found its heart of consciousness. The idea and feeling groping in ignorance at last clutched passionately the body of truth. The music born in matter's silences, plucked nude out of the Ineffable's fathomlessness, the meaning it had held but could not voice. The perfect rhythm now only sometimes dreamed, an answer brought to the torn earth's hungry need, rending the night that had concealed the unknown, giving to her her lost, forgotten soul. A grand solution closed the long impasse in which the heights of mortal effort end. A reconciling wisdom looked on life. It took the striving undertones of mind, and took the confused refrain of human hopes, and made of them a sweet and happy call. It lifted from an underground of pain the inarticulate murmur of our lives, and found for it a sense illimitable.
Starting today on page, I think 89. Yeah. So now we are coming towards the book end of book 1, and we will be soon starting with book 2, where all this that is being shown to Ashwapati, or that Ashwapati is seeing in front, how the grand design of the whole, how everything is, the planes of different consciousnesses, and the different worlds. So far, he has like a view which is from far. But now in book 2, which is the book 2 is the traveler of the worlds, I think. Yeah, so here it ends, and then we start with book 2, the book of the traveler of the worlds. So here he will begin to ascend all these planes and ladders that are there in front of him, and begin to actually be there. So he will be in each plane of consciousness that he now sees from far away. So today we have to start at page 89, and last time I think we stopped here. So let's take a little bit of overlap. We can read from starting from a giant order was discovered here, uh, just to have an overlap, and then we will take up the new lines for today. So on page 88, maybe each one of us can read two colored highlighted portions, and then we are done. Yeah.
A giant order was discovered here, of which the tassel and extended fringe are the scant stuff of our material lives, this overt universe whose figures hide the secrets merged in superconscient light, wrote clear the letters of its glowing code, a map of subtle signs surpassing thought, was hung upon a wall of inmost mind.
Yeah, if anyone can't read, then maybe Taru, you can read all of it.
Yeah, I can go on.
Okay.
Illumining the world's concrete images into significant symbols by its gloss, it offered to the intuitive exegete its reflex of the eternal mystery. Ascending and descending twixt life's poles, the serried kingdoms of the graded law plunged from the everlasting into time, then glad of the glory of multitudinous mind, and rich with life's adventure and delight, and packed with the beauty of matter's shapes and hues, climbed back in time into undying self, up a golden ladder carrying the soul, tying with diamond threads the spirit's extremes.
Yeah. Thank you. So we were again, these lines we can see that as if he discovers like a plan, a giant order was discovered here, of which the tassel and extended fringe are the scant stuff of our material lives. So usually the life that we live, it is just that fringe portion of the whole grand plan and the all the possibilities that are there usually in front of us, but of course we keep on living in that scant fringe, and fringes, of course, we all may be aware, it is the outer, like the part which, like a frock has a fringe, on the border, and like a stole has fringe, it kind of hangs from the end of the stoles. So all our life, now imagine how, I think it's very, I don't know, it can be very disheartening that whole of our life is just spent in that scant fringe. And we are never, rarely is a life spent which becomes aware of further possibilities that are also there. Hmm? So a giant order was discovered here, of which the tassel, again the outer portion, and extended fringe are the scant stuff of our material life. उसी में गोल 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 हम घूमते चले जाते हैं पूरे जीवन भर, पता ही नहीं लगता और क्या पॉसिबल है. This overt universe, whose figures hide the secrets merged in the superconscient light, wrote clear the letters of its glowing code. So this grand design becomes visible to him now, which for us in our ignorance, it's not visible. We feel that as if this is all I can see, touch, and feel, and then there is darkness which I don't know how to enter that darkness. A map of subtle signs surpassing thought was hung upon a wall of inmost mind. So, last time we were talking of this sukshma drishti, or this inner vision, subtle sight, that is given now to him, which is beyond thought, illumining the world's concrete images into significant symbols by its gloss. So even the world's figures, जो छोटे छोटे हमारे फाइनाइट वर्ल्ड में जो सारी की सारी मैनिफेस्टेड चीजें हैं, उनके पीछे भी कोई ना कोई ट्रुथ छुपी हुई है, but we are not aware of that truth. So to him all this was revealed. Each thing, now in India, we were talking last time, I think, that in India we give importance to each and every part of our body. Each and every part of our body is like a god or a goddess, because there is a symbol everywhere, in stones or in plants, in insects, in animals. We all, everywhere we can see some godliness, we can see some truth, although still even after that our lives are steeped in ignorance, but there is that awakening at least, that no, everything in world is conscious, although it may not appear to be conscious. So that all those significant symbols kind of came up to him. It offered to the intuitive exegete its reflex of the eternal mystery. So kind of a reflection of the eternal mystery was being illumined in his mind, still mind. And he saw, what he sees now is ascending and descending twixt life's poles, spirit and matter. In between spirit and matter, as if there is an ascending and a descending ladder. The serried kingdoms of the graded law plunged from the everlasting into time. How is the ladder? It is plunged from the everlasting, plunging into time, coming down, and then glad of a glory of multitudinous mind. So mind also, again, various levels in the mind, and rich with life's adventure and delight, and packed with the beauty of matter, shapes, and hues. All these are on this ladder, climbed back from time to undying self. So ascending and descending, both. So coming from everlasting into the time, and then going from time into the undying self, up a golden ladder carrying the soul which has plunged into this darkness, that goes again and realizes its original source. Up a golden ladder carrying the soul, tying with diamond threads the spirit's extremes. So even this thread, the ladders in between, the steps in between, these are very like important steps, and we can't negate these steps. Like these are, no matter how ugly my previous step may seem to be, but it has been a step on my onward journey. So each thing has its proper place in this drop from consciousness to consciousness. So when the higher, the topmost consciousness, the highest most consciousness is plunging deep into darkness. It is coming down. It is kind of, one can say, degrading, debasing itself. In this drop from consciousness to consciousness, each leaned on occult inconscious power. Now, the power of inconscient is what makes the creation possible. It is because of darkness that we have separation. It is because of darkness that we have, okay, this is this much, and then there is something else which is separate from it. So the all that we see in creations is छोटी छोटी चीजें. एक कॉन्टिनेंट ये है, फिर इसका बॉर्डर है, और फिर ये दूसरा कॉन्टिनेंट है, बीच में ओशन है. So how I recognize as ocean, because there is a border between land and ocean. So through that border we have creation. Without that border or that darkness which is divisive, I cannot have creation. So this drop from consciousness to consciousness, how is it manifested? It is leaning back on inconscious power of this division. Which in other words we can also say a certain sort of Maya. Otherwise it is not possible to have finite shapes if the division is not there. Each leaned on the occult inconscious power, the fountain of its needed ignorance. So here there is a need of ignorance. So if an actor is playing a role of a villain, for some time the actor has to forget that he is a good person. So that is ignorance. I have to forget for some time that I actually am God. I don't know that. That is the blindness that is there. Because if I remember all the time that I am God, then of course I can't be this limited self that I am right now. Right? So the fountain of its needed ignorance. Here ignorance is needed. And here ignorance is archmason of the limits by which it leads. So it is because of ignorance, because of also the inconscious power of ignorance, that we have creation. And there Sri Aurobindo is putting things in perspective, that each thing has its proper place. So when we say why ignorance is there, here is the reason. And now we again go further in this ladder and take up these new lines. Yeah. So first there was this drop from consciousness to consciousness, and now there is a soar from consciousness to consciousness. Yeah, so if anyone can read the lines in pink.
In this soar from consciousness to consciousness, each lifted tops to that from which it came, origin of all that it had never ever been, and home of all that it could still become.
Yeah. So first there is a drop. Then we have limitations, we have narrowness. And now what we are trying to do in our lives is this soar from consciousness to consciousness. The drop is already there, and because of the drop we have this creation, we have this limited self that we call ourselves. We have the limited understanding, we have the limited mind, limited life, limited everything. And now what our aspiration, all of us, whatever aspiration is the soar. Now, as Sri Aurobindo shares that nature itself has been trying for the soar through its forms. So first came stone, then we have animal life, plant life, then we have insects, then we have higher animals, and then now we are on the stage of human beings, and those also have to evolve, because that is not the end. So that is a soar of consciousness. So in this soar from consciousness to consciousness, each lifted tops to that from which it came. So if, for example, you go above and you find something which is above you, that above you is the source from which you have come. But because of ignorance, I don't remember that source. But I remember faintly that कुछ है मेरे ऊपर जो है. अच्छे से मुझे नहीं पता, बट मुझे पता है कुछ है जो इससे बड़ा है, कुछ है जो इससे ऊपर है, कुछ है जो इससे अच्छा है. उस कुछ को हम तलाशते तलाशते That is why we have seeking as human beings, उस कुछ को हम तलाशते तलाशते सीढ़ी दर सीढ़ी हम ऊपर चढ़ते रहते हैं, so it is kind of lifting its top, ऊपर से जैसे खिड़की खुली, lifted its tops to that from which it came. Now when I am one floor above, then I go further above, and then further above, and then further above. So in the soar from consciousness to consciousness, each lifted tops to that from which it came, origin of all that it had ever been. And जो जो नीचे वाला plane of consciousness है, actually में जो उसकी truth है, वो उसके ऊपर वाले consciousness पे है, और उसके भी ऊपर वाले में उसकी truth है, बट नीचे वाले में उसको रियलाइजेशन नहीं है कि मैं हूं कौन. दैट इज वाई ऑल ऑफ अस वी डोंट नो हु वी ट्रूली आर, बट वी वांट टू नो. देयर इज एन एस्पिरेशन. वी नो दैट दिस इज something is missing. I have to find something. So origin of all that it had ever been, and home of all that it could still become. So going further from one realization to another, and from one awakening to yet another, because there is actually this limitless possibilities that lie kind of waiting for us to be there, exploring planes of consciousness after planes, as if imagine that there is a huge castle and we are like little beings, and we have not yet explored that huge castle. It's only one room in that castle that I've been living in most of my life. So now I have to go out of that one room, which is my limited analytical, logical mind or my bodily consciousness, not remaining dumb and occupied with all of that material and gross, but actually leaving that room and exploring the other rooms and the balconies and the windows of that castle. And this reminds me that actually, there is this one book, it's called Entering the Castle, and it has been written by uh, some person, again an English person, I think, who American, who got really very inspired and had very deep intimate connection with Saint Teresa of Avila. So she guided that person, American person, I think Carolyn Miss, who shared that entering our soul is actually entering kind of a castle, because you open more and more doors and enter into more and more possibilities, which may remain unexplored in this life also. It is a possibility. Yeah. So anything here? Anyone?
Yeah, just a very small comment. In the last two lines, that quote from, not quote, what mother had often said, that I don't look at your mistakes, I look at your possibilities. So that just came to me, that home of all that it could still become. Because if we focus on mistakes, like we just go down further there, right? And there's always hope, there's always more that one can become. Yeah.
Yes. So let's take then these lines. It's like one sentence. We can see how big is this sentence. So anyone would like to read?
An organ scale of the eternal's acts, mounting to the climax in an endless calm, paces of the many-visaged, wonderful, predestined stadia of the evolving way, measures of the stature of the growing soul, they interpreted existence to itself, and mediating twixt the heights and deeps, united the veiled married opposites, and linked creation to the ineffable.
So what it looks like is, and if we have seen, we may not have seen it in real, how what is an organ, the instrument, the musical instrument. So there are several kind of organs, and usually the main point of organ is that it can cover many scales, because it's like पियानो में तो सिर्फ जैसे एक स्ट्रेच होता है, तो इसमें दो तीन जैसे स्टेप्स की तरह दो तीन लेवल्स होते हैं, इवन फर्दर. And usually in cathedrals or churches we have these organs, they have huge pipes, and music can be created on that, which is going from a very low scale to a very high scale in one instrument. So that is the khasiyat of an organ. So here all this infinite kind of soar from consciousness to consciousness and drop from consciousness to consciousness, it is being related to an organ, like it is a musical piece, an organ scale of the eternal's acts. तो अब eternal ने अगर कोई म्यूजिक बजाना है तो फिर इंस्ट्रूमेंट भी बहुत बड़ा होना चाहिए ना, जो बहुत नीचे से शुरू होता है और बहुत ऊपर तक उस स्केल को कवर करता है. सो लाइक दैट ही इज क्रिएटिंग म्यूजिक, एन ऑर्गन स्केल of the eternal's acts, mounting to their climax in an endless calm. And as this music goes up and up and up and up and up, the background of that is an endless calm. And usually our background, human acts, in from coming from our limited ignorant consciousness, our acts are not originating in calm, they are originating in too much agitation, restlessness and suffering. If we generally look at ourselves, that is our ordinary consciousness, है ना. हड़बड़ी में हम सारे काम करते हैं और जल्दी रहती है कि जल्दी से कहीं पहुंच जाएं, और अगर कहीं पहुंच जाते हैं तो और जल्दी रहती है कि नहीं अब आगे बढ़ जाए आगे बढ़ जाए, कोई तो एक एजिटेशन है, एक रेस्टलेस है. सो हमारा जो बैकग्राउंड है वो एक एजिटेशन वाला बैकग्राउंड है, एक रेस्टलेसनेस वाला बैकग्राउंड है. बट हेयर द म्यूजिक दैट इज बीइंग क्रिएटेड इज टेकिंग प्लेस इन इज एन एंडलेस काम, माउंटिंग टू देयर क्लाइमेक्स इज एन इन एन endless calm, paces of the many-visaged wonderful. So as if there is a humongous being who is multifaceted, and these are his steps, like how the music is being created from a very low scale to a very high scale. Predestined stadia of the evolving way. So stadia here, Shraddhavan shares that it refers to, say, milestones. So as a soul, as we grow from ignorance and then we awaken up to our soul consciousness, and then we have that, oh, there is something which is awake in me, there is something that is aware in me, and slowly then there are steps further and further in that realization. So like that, there are predestined milestones in this growth of consciousness. So this is a grand design, and for each one those milestones are there. Paces of the many-visaged wonderful, predestined stadia of the evolving way. So our soul consciousness is growing, layers of ignorance are being shed, and then there are particular milestones on the way which are like reflections of our awakening. Like, okay, this has happened and this has happened. We may not know those milestones, but they are there. Measures of the stature of the growing soul. So this is something which is described. It is not something which is coming here for the first time. It is described in several different ways in our Upanishads, in our Vedas, all these different kinds of awakenings in other scriptures, that realizations after realizations, how they are there, and they are kind of a symbol of the growth of evolving consciousness or growth of our soul. They interpreted existence to itself and mediating twixt the heights and deeps, united the veiled, married opposites, and linked creation to the ineffable. So imagine that on one pole there is spirit, and on one pole there is matter or darkness or inconscient. So there is on one pole there is darkness, and then the other pole there is light. Or on the in between there are various grades, like shades of consciousnesses in between. Now if we have to travel this journey from darkness to complete light, we'll have to go through all these milestones that are there on the way, and that as if it's they are married opposites. They are actually joined together, but it seems like there is a gulf in between, because we can't see, in our dumbness and ignorance we can't see the steps on the way. So ऐसा लगता है कि कुछ है ही नहीं रास्ता, हम कैसे पहुंचे अपनी स्पिरिट तक, क्योंकि ऐसा लगता है पता नहीं कितनी डार्कनेस है बीच में, रास्ता ही भूल जाते हैं, रास्ता भटक जाते हैं बार बार। बट ऐसा है नहीं, वो सिर्फ हमारी इग्नोरेंस की वजह से जो कर्टन की तरह सामने आ जाती है, ऐसा अपीयर होता है कि एज इफ दे आर नॉट मैरिड बट दे आर मैरिड, and it's like a curtain that is there in front, which is hiding all those steps. So these predestined stadia, these milestones in between, they are the measures of the stature of the growing soul, and they interpret existence to itself as we grow and evolve, and they are the ones mediating the heights and the deeps. So these steps of the ladder, अब जब नीचे से हमको ऊपर की तरफ जाना है, मान लो नीचे हम खड़े हैं और हमको छत पे जाना है, तो वो जो स्टेप्स ऑफ द लैडर है वो हमको छत तक लेके जाते हैं. They are mediating us to the terrace and linked creation to the ineffable. So creation again is what we can see, touch, feel, sense, that is creation. And ineffable, we say that's something which we cannot describe, which we don't know, which we cannot describe, but which we want to know. So that link is being created by these milestones in between, which are the steps of this ladder. So again, whatever I'm sharing, this just comes to me, and of course there is more, and to each his own. Whatever we get out of these lines is what we should get. So if there are things more, please take it into account that all of them exist parallelly as we take whatever little we see right now. Yeah, so anything more here, anyone? Okay, so we can take a little bit further then. Yes, would anyone want to read?
Yes. Starting from in this soul, right?
Starting from a last high world.
Okay. A last high world was seen where all worlds meet. In its summit gleam where night is not nor sleep. The light began of the Trinity supreme. All there discovered what it seeks for here.
Thank you. So he sees, like हम कहीं दूर खड़े हैं और हमारे सामने एक माउंटेन है, और माउंटेन पे हमको बहुत सारी चीज़ें दिख रही हैं कि अच्छा ये भी है, एक मंदिर भी है, एक वो भी है, so all those steps are right in front of me, but right now I am not on the mountain, I am seeing it in front of me. So like that Ashwapati sees a last high world was seen where all worlds meet. This we can call the world of the supermind, of the world of absolute truth, where all the contraries are meeting. A last high world was seen where all worlds meet. In its summit gleam where night is not nor sleep. तो हम किससे ग्रस्त रहते हैं? हमको प्रॉब्लम होती है कि हमें नींद बड़ी आती है. अगर चाहते भी हैं कि कुछ अच्छा पढ़ लें, लाइफ डिवाइन पढ़ लें, सिंथेसिस पढ़ लें, 5 पेज पढ़ेंगे, 10 पेज पढ़ेंगे, उसके बाद नींद आने लग जाएगी. And not only this kind of sleep, the physical sleep, but we actually keep sleeping. It means that we are awake to our senses, but we don't know who we truly are. So to our true self, we are asleep. And then night, which is darkness, which is all this despair, gloom, this blindness that is there in front of us all the time. And then we have glimpses only of awakening in between, and then again there is darkness, right? But here in this world where all the other worlds so far that he has seen are meeting, in its summit gleam where night is not nor sleep. जो कबीर जी कहते हैं, जाग सके तो जाग, चेत सके तो चेत. तो यहाँ पे सब जगा हुआ है, यहाँ पे कोई नींद नहीं है. The light began of the Trinity Supreme. All there discovered what it seeks for here. So in this Trinity is Satchit Ananda, the world of pure existence, consciousness, force and bliss and Ananda. There all the rest of the worlds are meeting. So that is like its consummation, its ultimate, where it's like ultimate parent, where all of it is coming from and all of it has to go. When I think this is in Indian tradition, we very well know, although we may not understand it, but it has been told to us by various masters कि हमारा जो पूर्ण स्वरूप है वो सच्चिदानंद है. जो हम एक्चुअली में है वो हम सच्चिदानंद है. बट हमें लगता है कहाँ सच्चिदानंद, ना सत्य है, ना चित्त है, ना आनंद है. कैसे बोल रहे हो? तो यहाँ हमको जाना है. और यहाँ पे अगर हम देखते हैं our lives, in all our lives, no matter how good we are doing in our lives, something or the other still keeps like something is missing. अभी कुछ है जो कम है, अभी कुछ है जो missing है. So he shares that all there discovered what it seeks for here. तो हम यहाँ जिस चीज को तलाश कर रहे हैं, कभी अपनी जॉब में तलाश कर रहे हैं, कभी किसी प्लेस में तलाश कर रहे हैं, कभी लाइफ सिचुएशन में तलाश कर रहे हैं, कभी किसी इंसान में तलाश कर रहे हैं, रिलेशनशिप में तलाश कर रहे हैं, वो जो तलाश है हमारी, इट इज लाइक द कल्मिनेशन ऑफ दैट तलाश. वहां पे खत्म हो जाती है हमारी तलाश. सो ऑल देयर डिस्कवर्ड what it seeks for here in this creation full of ignorance and darkness and tamas and inertia and everything, that with what we are seeking here, we discover in that world, not before that. And that is why in Buddhism, for a long time, we have to take it as a fact that disappointment will come in samsara, because right now samsara is not supermind. सुप्रामेंटल कॉन्शियसनेस पूरी तरह से मैनिफेस्टेड नहीं है यहाँ पे. तो डोंट एक्सपेक्ट सच्चिदानंद हियर. सो इट इज अ वेरी प्रैक्टिकल काइंड ऑफ अ सजेशन that don't expect it here because it is not here right now. But it does not mean that it cannot be have. There will come a time when we begin to live in that consciousness, truth consciousness, and then that will get manifested in the life which is material. That time will come, but we don't know when. So we will have a culmination of our seeking. And in that world, the Trinity Supreme, we have the culmination of our seeking. We can take also I think these two lines. It freed the finite into boundlessness. है ना, अपना कितना हम लिमिटेड फील करते हैं ना, छोटे छोटे छोटी जिंदगी, छोटे छोटे परिवार, छोटी छोटी कहानियां हमारी ना, कुछ अल्टीमेट बड़ा. और तभी हमारा मन करता है, सबका मन करता है कि कुछ बड़ा करें, कुछ. और बड़े लोगों को फिर हम रेस्पेक्ट देते हैं क्योंकि ये बड़े लोग हैं ना. तो बड़े से हमारा कुछ रिलेशन होता है. बच्चों को भी अगर हम देखें मोस्टली कि आपको छोटा गिफ्ट लेना है कि बड़ा, अपने आप वो बड़े पे हाथ मारते हैं कि बड़ा वाला में कुछ ज्यादा इंटरेस्टिंग होगा. और मान लो टॉफीज की बात हो रही है तो एक एक चाहिए नहीं, और चाहिए, और जो भी उनके पसंद की चीज है उसमें और चाहिए. वी ऑल वांट मोर, एंड देयर इज सम feeling in us where we know that we are more, but we don't know how to reach that more. Hmm? So that finite, that constricting and limiting in us, that reached its boundlessness there in that high summit that he sees. It freed the finite into boundlessness and rose into its own eternities. So, not only one eternity, each finite thing, each finite feeling, thought, whatever, it has its culmination in its own eternity in that domain, if one can say, in that plane of consciousness. तो जो हम पूरा होना चाहते हैं वो in that plane of consciousness we have that culmination, पूर्णता जो हम ढूंढ रहे हैं हर चीज से उसके. आई थिंक दिस इज ऑल्सो व्हेन आई वाज रीडिंग दिस इट्स ऑल्सो वेरी रेवलेटरी कि अभी जो हमारी एक्सपेक्टेशन है देन वी कैन एक्चुअली पुट डाउन दोज एक्सपेक्टेशंस, क्योंकि हमारी बहुत ज़्यादा अनड्यू एक्सपेक्टेशंस हो जाती हैं अपनी रिलेशनशिप से, वर्क प्लेस से, है ना, कि पूरा चाहिए, पूरा क्यों नहीं हो रहा, अरे हारमोनी है तो आधी क्यों है, तो पता लग जाए कि अभी वो स्टेट नहीं है, वो प्लेन ऑफ कॉन्शियसनेस अभी बहुत ही उखड़ा उखड़ा सा है. वी आर नॉट इन सुप्रामेंटल मैनिफेस्टेशन. We can have glimpses of supramental consciousness, but we are not in that manifestation yet. So the demand of me having total harmony in my home or relationship or workplace or wherever, it is an impossible demand right now. तो उससे थोड़ा एक अपने अंदर हम we can actually find peace and solace here. और इससे ये भी पता लगता है कि जो दूसरे बंदे हैं हमारे आसपास, बेचारे वो भी तो तड़प ही रहे हैं. जैसे हमको नहीं मिल रहा उनको भी तो नहीं मिल रहा, वो भी तो खोज रहे हैं, सब खोज रहे हैं. So anything here so far? So then we can maybe take some more, and then after that we can end. Yes, this is a good point to end. So we'll take until this page 90. Yeah, does anyone want to read?
The inconscient found its heart of consciousness, the idea and feeling groping in ignorance, at last clutched passionately the body of truth, the music born in matter's silences, plucked nude out of the ineffable's fathomlessness, the meaning it had held but could not voice, the perfect rhythm now only sometimes dreamed, an answer brought to the tone earth's hungry need, rending the night that had concealed the unknown, giving to her her lost, forgotten soul.
Yeah. This reminds me of this movie, The Wizard of Oz. Some of us may have seen it. So in that there is this tin man, and all that he wants is that I don't have a heart, I want a heart. So here the first line, the inconscient found its heart of consciousness. Whenever we think of inconscient or inconscience, we think that it's like dumbness, a deep darkness which has no light in it. Where is the light? Where is the light? At least no apparent, no like it's not visible. That light is not visible. It may be somewhere hidden deep inside it, like a black hole. So here in this plane of consciousness, in this summit where all the other worlds are meeting, everyone is finding its culmination. So the inconscient is here able to find its heart of consciousness. जबकि हम इनकॉन्शियंट की बात करते हैं तो हमको लगता है कि टोटल अनकॉन्शियसनेस, इट्स लाइक अनकॉन्शियसनेस से भी ज्यादा घना अंधेरा, है ना। तो वहां पे उसको वो लाइफ और जो हार्ट है, जो लाइट है, that is not there, we feel in creation, that it is not there in inconscient. It found its culmination there. So the inconscient conscient found its heart of consciousness, its source, the idea and feeling. We have ideas and we have feelings, groping in ignorance, trying to find their culmination. In our ignorance we are always trying to find कि मतलब अभी भी कुछ कम है, अभी कुछ पूरा नहीं है, कुछ कुछ है जो मिसिंग है. At last clutched passionately the body of truth. वो छोटा बच्चा होता है ना, जाके मम्मी को लिपट जाता है, कि अब पूरा फील हो रहा है, like that. So every little part and piece and finite things of creation, they found their culmination in that, the highest summit of Satchidananda. The idea and feeling, groping in ignorance, at last clutched passionately the body of truth. The music born in matter's silences, plugged nude out of the ineffable's fathomlessness, the meaning it had held but could not voice. So, as if there is a music in matter. Matter is, say, the easiest example we can take of matter is stone. And we are also coming from that matter. So all of us have music inside of us. But we are trying to find that music out. We don't know yet what is the music I want to play. I know that something is there which I have to play, but I don't know what exactly. है ना. तो काफी बार होता है गलत नोट बज जाता है, लेकिन हमको थैंकफुली पता लग जाता है नहीं ये गलत नोट था ये. And then at times we have the right strikes of the notes, the music from within. And then we also see that we may not be able to consciously recognize it, but something in us knows that it was the right note, right? So like that, all of us have music inside of us. We all have a particular rhythm that we are here to play out in our lives. So far we have not yet found it fully. We may have found it in glimpses, but it is not fully found. We have to find it first, then we have to play it. That is our offering to the world. And that is, in other words, we call, psychic individuality or psychic consciousness. That first to find, go in the search of psychic, first to dig that music out, because so far I don't know that there is a music and it is to be found. And then once we have gotten in touch with that music, to play it out, to offer it to the world. That is our gift to the world. So the music born in matter's silences, and it is trying to find, the exact rhythm. It plugged that music which is born in matter's silences. It was able to plug exactly in that fathomlessness the meaning it had held but could not voice. Now it just exactly recognized that, oh, this is what I wanted to play. Here you have your culmination, your fulfillment. The meaning it had held but could not voice. मुझे लगता है काफी बार हमारे साथ ये तब भी होता है, जैसे many a times we want to express something, but some other person, maybe like we are in a group, some other person says it aloud, and we resonate with that person as if we wanted to share that thing, but that person put it in words. So the meaning it had held but could not voice. The perfect rhythm now only sometimes dreamed, an answer brought to the torn earth's hungry need. We are the torn earth. We are hungry people. And we get our resolution, the perfect rhythm, which we only dream at times, in that plane of true Satchit and Ananda, that pure consciousness. And it rends, that perfect rhythm once got, it rends the night that had concealed the unknown, giving to her her lost, forgotten soul. So to Judith Tyberg, Jyoti Priya, mother named her Jyoti Priya. She, one of those who had a conscious psychic, like they were living from the psychic consciousness. And there also the story does not end, actually, the story begins there. So to her, mother said that you have your psychic in front, and now whatever difficulties you face outside of you, now that you are working for the divine, are a reflection of difficulties that you must work within yourself. So the story is not ended at the psychic being in front. It actually begins, actually, a conscious journey now can begin, where the outer difficulties, I can take them on the path, and I can work on the inner reflections that are coming from the outer difficulties, which I may not, usually we are blinded to those. But when the psychic is more alive, then we are not that blinded. We can see. And when we can see, then we can correct, then we can work, then we can notice our imperfections and continue to work towards more and more perfection. So the music born in matter silences, plugged nude out of the Ineffable's fathomlessness, the meaning it had held but could not voice. The perfect rhythm now only sometimes dreamed, an answer brought to the torn earth's hungry need. So that hungry need that we have, that got fulfilled in that meaning that came out of that perfect rhythm that was found. And it rent the night, it tore apart that night, rending the night that had concealed the unknown, giving to her her lost, forgotten soul. कि भैया ये ले निकाल के पूरा हाथ में बाहर, ये छुपा था तेरे अंदर. So anything here? Anyone? Sorry, my light is gone, I think. Yeah. Yeah, sorry. I think we were done. But yes. Yeah, if there are any last comments, then please go ahead.
Yeah, just a comment on sleep. You had mentioned how this conversations with Sri Aurobindo, the Pavitrada book, which you're reading in Inspirational Lives. I think you might have covered that already, but it was really interesting. He says to Pavitrada that you say that you sleep, for indeed the only form of silence ordinary man knows for the mind is sleep, but this must be overcome. It is a known obstacle which all must overcome. Reject sleep as you reject other ills of the 4 hours. And of course, there's samadhi and all that's like not much known about it, but to see it so concretely that sleep is also a movement of a lower nature that has to be rejected. And it's pretty amazing how something occupies our life, like 1/3 of our day. Many a times, they say 8 hours is the ideal ideal sleeping time for rest and all. And he's just saying, just reject it. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely. I think we to each his own, है ना? So there, like for children, for students or in ashram, school or wherever, mother actually insisted that there has to be proper sleep and proper play and proper everything, food. In fact, to food, mother also said that young people also are in need of more protein, etc. So give them more eggs or even meat was allowed actually. बिकॉज मदर इंसिस्टेड कि है ना मतलब जो न्यूट्रिशन है वो कम नहीं होना चाहिए बढ़ती उम्र में बट वही है मतलब एज इट ग्रोज ऑन एंड एज वी ग्रो इन कॉन्शियसनेस देन वी रियलाइज दैट टोटली अंडरस्टैंडिंग एट दिस पार्ट एक्चुअली वी टुक अर्लियर that sleep has to be rejected and I feel that personally that the more we are living a very conscious life actually we don't need that much of sleep like we see with Champak Lalji. Champak Lalji would not sleep. He, totally he would just like take naps in between and nobody knows when he's sleeping. Same for goes for the mother also. Hardly enough sleep they had. But they didn't need it then. So वही है कि हम कहाँ पे हैं? Because the more we are lost in our thoughts and feelings, then we see that we need more sleep actually. Yeah, so this is very powerful that it is a possibility that there will come a time that we can reject sleep like the other ills as if it's an ill.
and how he says, right, the only form of silence that
हाँ,
an ordinary man
yeah,
needs. चुप ही नहीं होते मतलब that voice, noises, chaos,
absolutely.
sound,
Yeah,
perceptions,
mm,
thoughts, feelings, like it's a total मेला.
yeah,
और
yeah,
बाहर कहीं रामलीला चल रही हो तो हम बड़े डिस्टर्ब हो जाते हैं, है ना, और अंदर कितनी चल रही होती है.
yeah.
So it's very surprising how we are very immune a lot of times
Hmm.
these sounds and at times not, but the only way we know, and that's why sleep, मतलब रात में ऐसे लगता है कई बार कि वो thank God
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
night, thank
Hmm.
our days like that कि okay
True,
now
true,
I can rest.
true, true, very true. And also when we are kind of, waking up, we had touched upon earlier also. When we are waking up, then we are able to see the background chatter more clearly. है ना कि अभी भी कितना पीछे जैसे हल्का सा हिलते ही वो चैटर वी आर एबल टू सी कि हो गया शुरू वो जो मेले की बात कर रहे थे मेला शुरू हो गया मतलब ऐसा नहीं कि पहले नहीं चल रहा था बैकग्राउंड में स्लीप में भी देर आर फेजेस जब वो चल रहा होता है मेला बट ऑफ कोर्स वी हैव पैचेस ऑफ total silent deep sleep also but hardly any silence even during the sleep we have yeah. Even dreams the kind of dreams we have सब मिक्स मैक्स होके है ना इधर का इधर ये घर में आ गया आपके सब मिक्स मैच होके पता नहीं क्या क्या हल्ला हो रहा होता है तो शांति या टोटली नॉट देयर आई थिंक वही है दैट आई थिंक स्लोली वी हैव टू डेवलप काइंड ऑफ अ न्यू टेस्ट तो ये हमारे पुराने टेस्ट हैं धीरे धीरे जाएंगे chaotic having a chaotic mind and chaotic being but now as more and more we get a new taste of a silent being and a silent space within I think slowly the less importance as we give to the background noise so then they have no point to stay. Any other thing? All right, so then we can stop here and then we in the next session we can pick the threads up from page number 90 starting. Okay, so let's taking a moment to share, dedicate all the merit, collective or individual, sharing it with all the sentient beings. May we all have our fullness that we are looking for. May we be able to find the music that we are here to play, and may we have the courage to play it out also. The choicelessness to play it out. May all of us be well and truly happy.